Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. Biggest breaking news in years as it relates to what I discuss on this channel, which is space weather, Earth events, and more. We have just had a 8.7 megaquake right off of the Kamchatka Peninsula. There's been a whole bunch of earthquake activity here going back to about the 20th or so. So in less than 10 days, there has been just a flurry of earthquakes. And today we had the magnitude 8.7 megaquake. We've been talking about megaquakes a lot on this channel because we haven't had a magnitude 8 plus earthquake in 4 years until today. And in fact, at a moment magnitude of 8.7, that makes it the strongest earthquake that we have had since the March 11th, 2011 Great Tohoku earthquake in Japan that triggered that tsunami and the Fukushima meltdown. So this is big, big earthquake. The entire earth has shook from this event. So this is like, this is wild. There are tsunami advisories and watches for all across the Ring of Fire and specifically like the Pacific Ocean coastline. So there are already tsunami waves coming into Kamchatka. This occurred at 23:24 Universal Time. The depth is only 18.2 kilometers, so pretty shallow. You get a big subduction, megathrust earthquake at a shallow depth, you're gonna get a tsunami. So there is a lot of concern for Hawaii, which we see our epicenter there, and there's aftershocks. We're getting like magnitude 7 aftershocks, tons of magnitude 6s. So this is a very serious thing. We're gonna do a complete breakdown in this video. Stay up to date. It's a live stream. I don't know how long this live stream is going to go on for until we're at a point where we're kind of good to close. That's how long I'm here for, because I've been basically waiting for a megaquake for a while. Something in my bones was telling me that we were due for one very soon. Just go through my video thumbnails for the videos and live streams and you'll see all the talk about it. So Hawaii is very concerned about a tsunami. They're under a big tsunami watch, but also Alaska, very serious tsunami watch for parts of the Aleutian Islands, and then going all the way down the Pacific Northwest to San Diego, we have this tsunami watch in effect. So we don't know like how significant this is going to be. I think that these waves probably lapping up against California aren't going to be that significant because this is pretty far away and kind of at an oblique angle. But for Hawaii, I think that could be a bit more concerning. Again, the biggest earthquake since 2011. So in 14 years, we have not had an earthquake this big. And the last magnitude earthquake, last magnitude 8 earthquake that we had up till today was in 2021. That was in August. So we were coming up on the 4-year anniversary. We typically get one magnitude 8 earthquake every single day, but this is significantly bigger than a magnitude 8. We're gonna check out a ton of things. We have some video from Russia, but let's just quickly do a comparison here. Let's just type in on our earthquake calculator magnitude 8 and then a magnitude 8.7, which is what this came in at. And a magnitude 8.7 is 5 times stronger than a magnitude 8 in amplitude and 11 times stronger in terms of energy release. So more than an order of magnitude, more energy release than a magnitude 8. And in fact, we haven't had one for a while. Let's type in the foreshock that gave us a clue that Kamchatka may be about to have a megaquake, and lo and behold it did. That was one of these zones I highlighted just like 2 or 3 days ago saying, guys, this is looking like a massive foreshock sequence to a big earthquake. Here we go. That main foreshock was a 7.4. Okay, so a magnitude 8.7 is 20 times stronger in amplitude than that foreshock 7.4 magnitude and 89 times stronger. And that is why when you have a foreshock, if it is leading up to a bigger event, it's not really dissipating the strength. This is 90 times stronger than that 7.4, and some of the aftershocks from that 7.4 were magnitude 6.6. That in of itself is the 7.4 is 16 times stronger than those aftershocks. So you see how this scales exponentially. It's really quite wild. We're going to go through Twitter more to get some more live videos, but here we have one showing some of these waves stream in right nearby. I really don't know all the details, but we can see that the ocean is just pushing inland really strongly. That's how tsunamis work. It's not really like a normal wave where it's just bigger, but then the ocean kind of recedes back. It's really just a big push of water, and it doesn't stop. It just goes, pushes in more, and that can be very destructive. And so a lot of people in Hawaii live right on the coast, right? Now the Big Island eventually slopes up, but other spots are not like that. This is very significant. So now the population density in Kamchatka and that area isn't that much. So, I mean, it's definitely affecting people. A lot of people there felt that, but it's not, thankfully, like right on Tokyo. So we do have a lot to be thankful for in terms of the location of this earthquake. Looks like this is another, I'm not sure exactly where this location is. I think it's Russia. That's what it said just in that video description really quick. There's the phantom finger. But here we see just the ocean is just churning. This can't be Russia. That's like a palm tree right there. I don't know where this is. Or maybe that's like not a palm tree. But yeah, this is very, very significant. And we'll go through this more. Here is, let's actually go straight to our tsunami alert. And this is provided by NOAA. You can check this out, tsunami.gov. And I'm just updating this right now to see if this has changed, but this is what we have right now. We have warnings for the Aleutian Islands, these zones right there. Hawaii is under a warning. Page unresponsive. Let's just set it on wait. And then we have advisories a little bit further to the east. And then we have watches going all the way down to California. So I'm not too concerned based off of what I know for this zone, though definitely if you're right on the coastline, keep that in mind. I don't know what the heck is happening here. But just be very, very mindful of this and definitely check in with your local authorities if you're in Hawaii or anywhere there for Alaska. And honestly, get emergency supplies, a bug out bag, and get to high ground, because this is kind of like we don't really know exactly how big of a deal it is until it happens. That web page is totally failing on us. So let's type in, let's hopefully get this to load up. It's probably just slammed under the pressure right now. And there's other spots too. We have Guam is under an alert, and parts of the Pacific as well. So let's see if we can zoom in here. Doesn't look like the page itself is letting me zoom. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, let's zoom over. Here's the epicenter of that quake. Oh my God, sometimes these web pages. Here's the epicenter of that quake right there. This is 8.7, again, magnitude. This is saying the event depth is 46 miles, whereas USGS is saying it's 18.2 kilometers, unless that's just been updated, like literally seconds ago. So significant earthquake, and then we zoom out here. We'll see that Hawaii is still under a warning. So all of Hawaii, the different islands, Big Island, Maui, Oahu, Kauai, Molokai, I mean, there's a whole bunch of islands there. They're all under a big tsunami warning. So this is significant, not to be ignored. Please, please, please get prepared, get ready. If you live on the coastlines, we see the warning area, right? And now it's not going to go up 100, 200 feet or anything, but still, like if you're in a low-lying area in any of these islands, you need to be prepared for some big waves to come in. If you see the ocean start to recede and it stays back, that's a sign that a big wave is going to come in. And again, it's not just like it breaks and that's it. It's just a continuous push of water. So really significant. really significant stuff. Let's go back to our USGS map, check out our aftershocks, because we've had actually a ton of earthquakes today. We had a magnitude 6.6 down in Fiji, deep earthquake. So this was at 553 kilometers. And so we've been tracking what's been happening on the Ring of Fire. We're going to go to Google Earth and check that out in just a little bit. But effectively, all the earthquake activity in July, magnitude 6 and greater, has been along the Ring of Fire, along with one event there near the Nicobar Islands yesterday. That was a 6.5. But we had this 6.6. And so this deep earthquake activities kind of make me think that some of the foundation of the Pacific plate ruptured, broke, and that allowed some other portions like up here to finally undergo those big moves. You know, there's so much that we don't know about plate tectonics and about earthquakes and more, so that's certainly a feasible scenario. And in fact, these super deep earthquakes, they're less of a shear event, they're more of an implosion. A lot of the energy actually gets released as heat. And so like on the fault zone itself, it can heat up 1,000, 2,000, even like 3,000 centigrade. So it's like a thermonuclear explosion effectively happening underground. So we've been having some deep earthquakes. The biggest earthquakes this month have been the magnitude 7.3 in Alaska, the 7.4 Kamchatka, and now this 8.7. So let's sort this by only show them on the map, and let's put largest magnitude first. Here we have our 8.7. And we'll also check out the event page for this. But, right, massive earthquake, right, actually pretty close to Petropavlovsk. So that looks like it's a little bit of a town. And also right next to these volcanoes. I'm pretty sure this is a Shiveluch volcano. I'm not sure. Maybe if I put on terrain, it'll tell me. Or street mode. Some of the USGS maps are a little lacking, but you'll notice that there's some volcanoes right now, and you get volcanoes near subduction zones. So we had the plate going down like this, but this could perhaps cause some instability to those volcanoes as well. It's a massive release of energy, so you have to consider the seismic waves propagating out from that. And because this is at 8.7, these are massive seismic waves, not magnitude 6 waves or magnitude 7, like multiple orders of magnitude stronger. And if they interact with any geologic features, or perhaps like a magma chamber, we don't know exactly what's going to happen as a result of that. It's good to just be on alert if you live in these areas. And just in general, the entire Earth is shaking from this event. An earthquake of this magnitude shakes and reverberates the entire Earth for a long period of time. So this is being picked up by every single seismograph on the planet effectively. In terms of the main shock and now the aftershocks and more. We see these aftershocks, magnitude 6.9, 6.3, 5s. Because this is an 8.7, the chance of there being a high magnitude 7 aftershock is quite elevated. So I would say don't be surprised if there's a magnitude 7.5 aftershock that follows up in the next 24 to 48 hours. I would not be surprised in the least to have only the magnitude 6 and lower aftershocks would be very surprising from an 8.7 magnitude event. So let's go to our 30 days significant worldwide. Check out all the activity in this zone, okay? And we're going to put this by oldest first. So we see that we had this 6.6 there, and that was a foreshock to this 7.4. That was again on the 20th. It's been less than 10 days. Then we had 6.6, 6.6 right there. So we had those three 6.6 earthquakes. And now we see this 8.7, 6.9, 6.3. There were some other magnitude 6 earthquakes in there as well. We'll see that on the Google Earth imagery. Let's go to that right now because I have them all loaded up. I've been tracking this. We can see the plate motion here. We see our plate boundary. So the Pacific plate is hitting the Eurasian plate, and it's really going down like that. And what's been interesting about this is the earthquake swarm characteristics. So we have this 7.4 right here in the middle of these 6.6 earthquakes. We see them like that. Then we had this aftershock that went off to the east. And we also had this aftershock there to the west. And it looks like originally the plate motion was kind of going this way, and then we had this aftershock, and now it really pushed that way with this 8.7. So anyone in this zone basically had no heads up in terms of the shaking, and then also that tsunami that came in. That's just so fast of a sequence that there's really nothing you can do for that. But people in Hawaii have quite a bit of heads up, at least a few hours, probably like 4 to 6 hours or so. So if we look at the time for this, now they've just upgraded it to an 8.8. So an 8.8 magnitude earthquake. They are constantly revising this number upwards as they are crunching the data. 20.7 kilometers depth is now the latest info that we have from the USGS. A lot of people accuse the USGS of downgrading the quakes and that it comes in at 6.6 and they're always downgrading them to make it seem like things aren't as active, right? Well, they have to process the data to get the accurate magnitude. And this one, they've been revising up, and up. So it is only getting stronger as it relates to that moment magnitude scale as we have more time to process the data. I want to check out an application called Tsunami Lab, and we are going to type in and put in for that location a magnitude 8.8 earthquake, just to get a sense of what this looks like. And hello and welcome everyone to the live stream. If you're new here, I'm your host, Stefan Burns, geophysicist, geologist, space weather guy, cosmic dude. I cover a whole bunch of stuff on my channel. I don't put myself just in any one niche or domain, and I bring all these things together. So if you'd like to learn about all these things and more, then please subscribe to the channel. Let us go up here. Here we see that actually, is this for today? This is for today. They already have this earthquake in the tsunami simulator. So here we see that propagating out at normal speed. In 1 hour it's reached here. Let us punch this up a bit, do 4x speed, and let's see when these big waves start to hit Hawaii. So we can give people a heads up to know when they can expect this. Again, this is just a model simulator, but it's probably not going to be that inaccurate. It's probably going to be fairly close. So we start to see it hit the furthermost west islands at around 5.5 hours. And in terms of the waves hitting the big island, right there, 6.5 hours. So this earthquake occurred, I think, about 2 hours ago now. I got back home as soon as I could once I learned about it. It happened at 23:24 Universal Time. Right now it is 1:37 Universal Time. So yeah, just about 2 hours ago now. So Hawaii, according to this tsunami simulator, has about 3.5 to 4.5 hours before it hits. So you have some time to prepare if you are living in Hawaii, Oahu, Maui, Big Island, Kauai. Kauai will be hit first. And then Guam is also in this area, lovely island. I've been to it myself. I've been to a lot of these little islands that America has. Though finding Guam, it's like somewhere in there, but all of the Pacific is getting hit by this. We also noticed Japan going down into, there's Taiwan, we have the Philippines, a lot of Indonesia, and then we have like Vanuatu, Fiji, Samoa, even going down to New Zealand, though it looks like our amplitudes start to go down. Here we see this. Again, this is just a model, but giving you a sense of how big this earthquake is. And here we see the West Coast. So please be careful in and around the ocean, anywhere along the Pacific Northwest, Alaska, Canada, Washington, Oregon, California, going even down into Baja. I would say just be careful, because this is, again, biggest earthquake that we've had since 2011. 14 years. Big earthquake. I can't keep saying that enough. I just want to show you quickly my channel, because we have been tracking this. And so like if you were to subscribe, you'll stay up to date on this stuff, and you would have basically been ready for this to occur. Because we track how space weather influences these things, as well as planetary resonances. And so, actually, this is my video tab. I've been doing a lot of live streams recently. If I go to live streams, we'll see kind of the progression. So right here, Stream 3 days ago. Megaquake risk is accelerating. Earth is long overdue for a megaquake. High seismic, what does it say? High seismic zones based on current earthquake patterns. And if we just mute this and we go down to our chapters, we'll see zone 1 in this video is Kamchatka. So I identified the fact that 7.4 could have been very likely a foreshock to a bigger quake, and well, that's exactly what it was. And so we talk about that in this video. There's the timestamp. Earth is long overdue for Megaquake, streamed 3 days ago. So people that watch the channel, there's a good amount of us now. There's going to be more after this live stream. We were basically on the watch for something like this to occur. So it is possible to forecast some of these longer trends in seismic activity because we've been checking global seismic rhythms. Let's go to our earthquake discovery stats for 2025. It's right here. And so here we see all these significant earthquakes of 2025, our global seismic activity level. And we had this, what was this, 7.6 earthquake, Cayman Islands, February, 7.7 Myanmar, Burma. We started having a lot of coronal holes on the sun that interact with the earth in terms of their solar wind, and the space weather. It has very unique dynamics, which seems to trigger earthquakes. Quite a lot of research on that. Though a lot of people deny it, quite a lot of research on it. Just go to Google Scholar, type in space weather earthquakes or solar activity earthquakes, and start reading. You know, if you're really lazy, throw those research papers into Notebook LM and have it create a podcast for you. Listen to that. You know, they do a fantastic job at parsing that data and not adding any gibberish or, you know, nonsense in there like some of the other AIs do. So you could do that if you want to learn more about this. It's very simple. But we had the 7.7. We started having this increase in global seismicity here. We tracked that. Things did die down because of the space weather. We saw how that died down. And then we started getting these high-speed streams hitting us back to back to back. We've had 4 impacts. We have a 5th one coming up. And so we've been talking about this global burst of activity. I did not think that these magnitude 7.3 and 7.4 earthquakes were sufficient. I thought that there was more coming, which is why I continued to put out that Megaquake update and alert effectively. And well, today here we have it. And again, we had that magnitude 6.6 also in Fiji today. So we've had the aftershocks from this in addition to the main event, that magnitude 8.8 and 6.6. So one of the biggest releases, the biggest release of Earth energy since 2011 on our globe. Massive release of Earth energy. And so I have personal experience with how earthquakes can affect you physiologically, especially if you're close to the location. So if you've been feeling out of whack, just out of sorts, whatever, and you can kind of pinpoint it to this time, that very well could be the case, especially if you're living in and around that area. My personal experience was with the magnitude 7.8 earthquake that hit Turkey February 6, 2023. I was 1,400 kilometers away in Aswan, Egypt. And right as the earthquake was rupturing, I was feeling super feverish, and then it just kind of vanished a few hours later, and I felt fine. Then I found out about the earthquake. So there is this, there's these massive electromagnetic changes that occur from the biggest earthquakes, especially land-based earthquakes, because the ocean will absorb that energy. This one was off the coast, so the ocean may have absorbed a lot of that energy. But just FYI, if you have been feeling out of sorts today, it very well could be from this, a massive release of energy globally. And we still have quite a lot of 2025 left. And what you will see if you go through this is that sometimes these really big earthquakes, magnitude 8, come in pairs. So let's go back to our main tab here. And we see, we have to go to our global seismic activity level, and we can kind of just go back in time. This is what we have for right now. And then if we scroll down, we'll see 2024, which was weak because 2023 was weak and 2022 was weak because we didn't have any magnitude 8s, right? And so the way that earthquake energy scales, it fundamentally was a weaker release of energy globally for that year. But here we have 2021. We see there was 3 magnitude 8 earthquakes in 2021. And look how close these two together, right? So We scroll down further, we see some of this like clustering in effect. So we have certainly already had a big cluster of earthquakes. Look at this sequence right there in 2015, right? Some two big extreme earthquakes within a month of each other. So look at this one right there. That's a wild ride. So that is what magnitude 8s and 7s all clustered together within like about 3 weeks right there. So yeah, 3 weeks. So we can get clusters like that. So what I'm saying is that this magnitude 8.7 is likely going to be the biggest of this global seismic burst that we are tracking right here. But that doesn't mean that we may not get other high magnitude 7s or even low magnitude 8s. I would be surprised if we get something bigger than this 8.7 or 8.8 now, but it's possible. It is possible, but I don't think it's the most likely outcome. I think this is the Megaquake, the big one, for probably the year. But we could see some significant earthquake activity to follow this and kind of round it out. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll keep tracking the space weather. Let me do a new search for Russia earthquake, see what pops up on everyone's most least favorite platform, Twitter X. And let's see if some of these videos, looks like it's the same videos. Let me type in latest rather than top, see what we get. Here's, I think that's a zoom in from the video that we watched earlier. Здравствуйте, все русские человеки, и меня зовут Stefan Burns, и welcome. There's probably some Russians watching, and so my Russian's really bad. Well, it's not really bad. It's rusty. It's super rusty. So I wanted to say hello to all of them. But yeah, we're probably not going to get too much footage directly from this location. It looks like sirens are sounding across Hawaii. I'm not sure you guys can hear that. I can hear it on my end. So yeah, Hawaii is in a significant tsunami alert at this moment in time. And in fact, they're also in a heightened earthquake risk at this moment in time based off the reoccurrence interval and all this energy coming in from all across the Ring of Fire. As we can see here, tons of earthquakes across the Ring of Fire. Let's go to our historic earthquakes for the 21st century, effectively. I skipped like the first 7 months. I could change that, but I think this is sufficient. And let's just look at our newest earthquakes. And so this is set for magnitude 8 and greater. And so we see our 8.7, that's now an 8.8. This actually needs to get updated. Let me refresh this. Now it's our 8.8. And we see 8.1, that was August 12th, 2021, South Sandwich Islands down here in Drake Passage. We see this 8.2 there, Alaska, that was 2021. Then also in 2021, the Kermadec Islands earthquake right there, New Zealand. New Zealand's Alpine Fault is overdue as well. It has a 300-year reoccurrence interval, last big one, magnitude 8, 1717. So that is interesting. She's magnitude 8 there, magnitude 8.2, right? We have to go all the way down. Look at all these low magnitude 8s. We have this magnitude 8.6 that occurred 2012. That was near the site of the magnitude 9 earthquake in 2004. And then we get our Great Tohoku earthquake there, March 11th, 2011. That was a 9.1. So that is even bigger than what has occurred today. If we go back to our earthquake calculator, let's just do a comparison between 8.8 and 9.1. The biggest earthquake ever recorded, 9.5 in Chile, Peru. So 9.1 is 2 times stronger in magnitude, like in amplitude, and 3 times stronger in terms of energy released. And so we can also go up here and type in our 8.8 magnitude. And this is 1 trillion megajoules of energy, equivalent to 240 million sticks of TNT, and equivalent to 4.2 Tsar bombs. So the Tsar Bomba, which they dropped, I think it was 62, though maybe it was 64. And that was by Russia, the largest ever nuclear test 4.2 of those just exploded effectively under Kamchatka Peninsula. And so that energy is rippling out right now. But you can see how big it is in comparison to the biggest earthquake ever on record at magnitude 9.5. That was 1960 Chile, and this is only about 1/10 the strength of that 9.5. So puts things into scale really quickly. When you have a big earthquake like this, you have a lot of the fault to rupture. So this entire fault probably ruptured from that earthquake. You generally need a longer fault a longer fault section to rupture to have a big earthquake. And it's going in at an angle too. So this is a mega thrust. So you get this big push of uplift on the oceanic floor, like the crust. It could be, up to probably up to like 10 meters. Like it could be significant uplift. And that's what then generates that displacement of water and that tsunami wave going out. So if you just zoom out in general with our globe here, this is the location of the 7.3 in Alaska, 6.2 aftershock a few days later. All the stuff in Russia, we've been talking about it, that 8.8, of course. This earthquake swarm in Japan. Then we had these earthquakes here, Bondasi, Molokisi, 6.7 right there, 6.3, I think. 6.3, yeah, the 6.5 Nicobar Islands. We also see our 6.6 there. There's also a 6.6 today, and I haven't put that one in yet. And then we also see all these earthquakes down here south of New Zealand. But in general, you'll notice that for July, all the magnitude 6 earthquakes have been on that side of the Pacific plate. So it is kind of calling into question, like, what the heck is happening over here? Like, all of South America, this is where we get the biggest earthquakes. We get the biggest earthquakes here with the Andes and this subduction trench. Then we also get big earthquakes, Central America, Mexico, and California, of course. Cascadia subduction zone has a magnitude 8 potential, then going all the way up past Vancouver Island and back into Canada. And then, of course, we get big earthquakes here, magnitude 9.2, Alaska, 1964. So this is also another zone. Now, we haven't had the same aftershock or kind of swarm activity in Alaska like we've had in Kamchatka. See, we had the 7.4, but we had a lot more aftershocks, and we continued to have aftershocks. That's what made me think, like, maybe we have something bigger coming. Alaska's only been the 7.3 and the 6.2. So I don't think it's the highest likelihood that is a 4-shock sequence, but we do have the potential for big earthquakes in and around Alaska, this area, because, 1964, magnitude 9.2, second biggest earthquake ever on record. So there are some big earth changes right now, but I pointed out the location of all these earthquakes in July that have been significant because of Hawaii here, right smack dab, effectively equidistant to all of them. So it's been loaded with energy, just totally loaded with energy. Now it's under that tsunami threat, and Kilauea is due to erupt probably tomorrow. Within a day or two. It's been having regular eruptions every 10 days. So it's going to be fascinating to see what the next eruption at Kilauea volcano looks like, because it's been having these spectacular lava fountains. They have been about 1,000 feet tall or more. And the last one did not have this big lava fountain, but it was much wider. The vent opened up wider, and the volume was just really gushing out, much more volume than normal. And so now with all these powerful earthquakes that have occurred in and around Hawaii on the Pacific, the western side of the Pacific plate, we could see some really big activity at Kilauea. Like, I would not be surprised. But first, the residents have to get through this whole the tsunami alert. So again, if you are in Hawaii, please pack a bag. You have hours until hours until these tsunami waves hit. We don't know how significant it's going to be. Maybe we have some new updates. Let's look at that now. I'm not sure what the latest updates are, but let's see here, because I'm covering up. We have all the different places. Hawaii warning advance watch number 4. Let's see what it says. Okay, a tsunami warning continues in effect for the great state of Hawaii, and measures of reports of tsunami wave activity. One of them is saying 1 foot, another one's saying 3 feet. So that doesn't seem that bad. It definitely was not great for the people in Kamchatka, but that doesn't seem terrible as of now. So still though, this is not something to take lightly. You want to be prepared. Tune into your local radio station. Listen, I'm sure there's active alerts happening for those of you who are in Hawaii, and anyone on the West Coast should make sure that you are prepared and careful. So a tsunami is a series of long ocean waves. Each individual wave crest can last up to 5 to 15 minutes or more and extensively flood coastal areas. The danger can continue for many hours after the initial wave as subsequent waves arrive. Tsunami wave heights cannot be predicted, and the first wave may not be the largest. Tsunami waves efficiently wrap around islands. All shores are at risk no matter which direction they face. So if you're on the south side of any of the Hawaiian Islands, or you're not necessarily on the north side facing Russia, the Kamchatka Peninsula, the epicenter of the magnitude 8.8, you're still you need to be on alert. The trough of a tsunami wave may temporarily expose the seafloor, but the area will quickly flood again. Extremely strong and unusual nearshore currents can accompany a tsunami. Debris picked up and carried by tsunami amplifies its destructive power. Simultaneous high tides or high surf can significantly increase the tsunami hazard. The estimated arrival time in Hawaii of the first tsunami wave is 7:17 p.m. Today, Hawaii Standard Time. So 7:17 p.m. sunset. That is when, with sunset, that is when the first tsunami wave is expected to come in. Further messages will be issued hourly or sooner as conditions warrant until the threat to Hawaii has passed. That is the latest update from the Tsunami Center. And we will stay up to date with this. It's not reassuring. The initial reports aren't of the biggest waves, but again, I think this is what you really have to follow, and that you really can't predict this to the greatest degree. And yeah, 7:17 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time today, 29th of July, 2025. The day the whole earth shook, a magnitude 8.8 earthquake, Kamchatka Peninsula, Russia. What I found interesting about what's been happening up here is that, of course, there's a lot of tension between these two great nations, the United States and Russia. And then they started to pop off with these earthquakes. And so we had this 7.3 on the 16th of July, and then Russia came back with a 7.4 and aftershocks on the 20th. Almost like it's the same, swinging match as what's happening politically. Now the bar has been set with this 8.8. So just don't think about this too much, but it is interesting that we're seeing the Earth literally express these energies that we're also seeing happen at a societal scale. I think that's very, very interesting. It's literally expressing these things at the same time. So in this matchup, are we going to see another big quake from Alaska, from the U.S.? Don't know. It did not have the same foreshock activity that that Kamchatka did, which is why I identified that as my first zone for there being a potential of a megaquake in my video just 3 days ago. This is the first place I zoned in on. There are other places though. The Alpine Fault in New Zealand is an area that is also due for a megaquake. Magnitude 8 potential, and last rupture was 1717. We have some interesting planetary resonances that may be kind of working with that as a trigger mechanism. Who knows? It's at least a possibility. Japan has a very high risk of a megaquake in the Nankai Trough over the next 30 years. This is the site of the 9.1. Also, the Ryukyu Trench has been very active. one of the largest volcanic eruptions of the past 10,000 years occurred right here in the Ryukyu Trench. Kakai volcano there, the site of what you could call a Godzilla event, 150 cubic kilometers of material ejected out, pyroclastic flows, tsunamis, the pyroclastic flows reaching all the way up to Tokyo. So these sort of dramatic, powerful Earth events can and do occur. This is not outside of the realm of possibility. It's all happening on geologic time. Some of these reoccurrence intervals are thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years, but they do happen. And so we've just had the biggest earthquake since March 11th, 2011, with this magnitude 8.8 in Russia. The depth now being 20.7 kilometers. Let's refresh this to see what USGS is saying now. 8.8 still 20.7 kilometers. That is still what we got. So incredible earthquake activity at this moment in time. Let's see if our GMV visualization has updated for this magnitude 8.8. They are still crunching the data. They provide these visualizations showing the earthquake energy propagating out. We'll keep an eye on that. I think it should probably update before I end the live stream. And you know, we were talking about the Schumann resonances a few days ago because we had this really interesting activity in the Schumann resonances observed out of Tomsk, Russia, which is fairly close by to this earthquake epicenter in the grand scheme. You know, it's probably a couple thousand kilometers away, but it's not on the other side of the world. And so this energy here is often seen, these sort of like increases in the Schumann resonances are seen before, during, and after high magnitude earthquakes, specifically those on land. Now, what are the Schumann resonances? They are Earth's naturally resident energy fields created from lightning strikes, but also just in general from the flow of energy across the global electric circuit. This is the ionosphere, the uppermost part of the atmosphere. That's about 1% plasma. These charge carriers, they slosh around. When the Earth rotates into view of the sun, they get energized, and that releases these Schumann resonances. We're looking at a spectrogram going from 0 to 40 hertz. So 1 cycle per second is 1 hertz. 40 cycles per second, really quick, that is 40 hertz. And this is actually super low frequency. It's called extremely low frequency because your 5G router is pulsing at 5 gigahertz, which is 5 billion times per second? Yeah. So this is actually extremely low frequency in relation to these naturally resonant energy fields. But we were seeing very anomalous activity in the Schumann resonances. I talked about that in my one of my most recent videos. And now we had this magnitude 8.8 earthquake that struck. And that was again at 23:24 Universal Time. And so this is all in UTC +7. So let's see maybe if that earthquake signature pops up, because we're going to want to go to 0624 for this graph here. So we're going to go to 06, right? It's basically right in the middle, and we don't see anything exactly during the rupture of that earthquake, but we do see this burst of energy there across all the modes of the Schumann resonances just about an hour beforehand. So that could be a pre-earthquake signal. That's highly possible. Normally they cluster in around this mode 4, which is 24 hertz. These frequencies, if you did not know, if this is totally new to you, they're very interesting. They overlap perfectly with human brainwaves in terms of their strength. Like if it's the magnetic field, picotesla strength. If it's the electric field, microvolt strength. And also in frequency, because our brainwaves propagate also in that 0 to 40 hertz range, though there is also an expansion of that range beyond that high gamma wave frequencies. But we evolved in these, so that's why we're naturally resonant with them, and we see changes to Schumann resonances from, for example, earthquakes, but also space weather impacts like solar flares or solar storms, and also any sort of local atmospheric disturbance like a thunderstorm, or even like a rain cloud or a cyclone or hurricane. All of these things affect the Schumann resonances. So they are very profound. And this big 8.8 earthquake, it does seem that there is a pre-earthquake signal there just about 1 hour before rupture. And most of that energy probably got absorbed by the oceans, because if you look again at the epicenter, it is right off the coast, so it's not like it's coming from the deep abyss, but water, ocean water being highly conductive would have absorbed all that energy. So the fact that some of that energy apparently got through and was measured in Tomsk, Russia, which is around here, let's type it in, Tomsk, Russia, let's see how far away it is. This is the location of this, it's called the Space Observing System, and you can see it's actually pretty far away. I'll take the measure tool here and just roughly get that location. It's actually 4,600 kilometers away. But again, not the other side of the planet. But even from 4,600 kilometers away, it looks like we did get a 1 hour heads up with that Schumann burst. Though it would have been difficult to look at that burst before the earthquake occurred and been able to say, hey, magnitude 8.8 earthquake coming. That is kind of a different thing. So, yeah. Let's see. I do want to see this. Let's go back through and see what the latest is with some of these videos from perhaps people living in and around Russia. And we just got a comment from Put a Lid on It saying California will see tsunami waves around 1 a.m. Be safe and get up high. So yeah, let's actually go there first. And let's check out our advisories for Guam, because Guam is definitely close in California. They need this first. And estimated arrival times of the initial tsunami wave are given below. They may actually differ, but this is all coming in around 2:37 p.m. on the 30th of July for people in Guam. So Guam's a small island. You can drive the whole island in one day. Beautiful place. Definitely recommend going there if you haven't. It's a long flight. But potential impacts: sea level fluctuations that are generally no more than 3 feet above and below the tide level, minor flooding of beach and harbor areas, strong and unusual ocean currents in harbors, bays, and other nearshore waters. And the hazards forecast to begin around 2:37 p.m. for Guam time, Wednesday, July 30th, can persist for many hours. So it doesn't seem that it's going to be the biggest deal for Guam according to this, but still, just please be careful. Now let's check in on the most loved and the most hated state in our wonderful union, California. Love California, don't love the politics. But let us see what is happening in California. If we can find it. Let's actually refresh this too. Last time I tried to refresh this, it was a big problem. So hopefully we don't have that problem. I think we're already having that problem. So let me type in let's just go load it up again. Okay, they keep switching this between warning and watch and advisory and everything. So as new data is coming in, they've actually changed California now to be an advisory. So it was a watch when I started with this live stream, which is like a lower threshold. They've changed it now to be an advisory, and Hawaii is still under warning. So this is very significant. Now, can we find non-U.S. Canada Pacific threat? They are closer. Let's go there first. Our friends up north, we love them. We love their maple syrup too. Let's see what we got here. Tsunami waves reaching more than 3 meters above the tide level are possible along some of the coasts of Ecuador, northwestern Hawaiian Islands, and Russia. And tsunami waves reaching 1 to 3 meters above tide level are possible along some coasts of Chile, Costa Rica, French Polynesia, Guam, Hawaii, Japan, the Jarvis Islands, Johnston Atoll, Kiribati, Midway, Palmyra Island, Peru, Samoa, Solomon Islands. And then 0.3 to 1 meters above the tide level is for all these locations there. It's a whole bunch. Basically anywhere that has coastline that could get hit by that tsunami wave. And it doesn't look like it's that big of a deal for example, like Korea, either north or south, China, because they're kind of blocked by some of the islands like Japan and Taiwan, and also the angle, Vietnam. But yeah, this energy is rippling out across the globe. Only Europe, Europe's not going to get hit by this in terms of like a tsunami. But anyone that's on the Pacific, this needs to be ready, ready to go. So let's back out, and can I back out of this one? Yeah, and let's try to see one specifically for California, if we have one here. West Coast International #1. U.S. West Coast. Let's maybe go up. Okay, here we go. Watch number 3. I guess this is the one right here. The tsunami warning remains in effect. The tsunami advisory remains in effect. Tsunami advisory in effect for California. The coast from California-Mexico border to Oregon-California border, including San Francisco Bay. Now, keep in mind, if you're in San Francisco, there are reefs offshore. So the tsunami risk is lower as a result of that. Typically, they will break on those reefs, but please be careful. But that is good to know. It's pretty rare for San Francisco to get a significant tsunami because of those offshore reefs. They're like 10, 20 miles off. Oregon, the coast of Oregon, California border, even the Columbia River estuary, Washington, outer coast, basically all these areas, British Columbia, South Alaska, Alaska Peninsula, Aleutian Islands. And so here's our expected times. For Washington, it's around 23:35 PDT on the 29th, all the way to 2 a.m. in the morning to Tacoma. And if we go to Oregon, it's also 23:40 PDT going to 23:55 to Newport. So basically right around midnight, a little bit before midnight. And then California, Fort Bragg, 23:50 PDT. And then La Jolla, that's 1:15 a.m. So I guess I'm not sleeping tonight. But the advisory is expected, the tsunami wave is expected to be less than 1 foot. And that does make sense. It is pretty far away, but look here, Crescent City, 5.7 feet. That's notable because again, it's persistent, long period motion. You have the wave come in, it can stay in for 10, 15 minutes, and then you get a bigger one to follow. And these are just advisories and alerts and kind of guesstimations. This is not exactly what's going to happen. Always better as it relates to things like this to err on the side of caution. So it is 7:11 right now on the Pacific coast in California. So we have about 4 to 6 hours before these waves start to hit California, and similar times also for Oregon and Washington, and slightly reduced times from that for Canada. And the further north you go, those waves are already starting to hit the Aleutian Islands and beyond. So if you are in a tsunami warning area, please check. Like if you are in an area that has a tsunami warning, evacuate higher ground. Yeah, get off the beach. A lot of people right now, San Diego on the beach, though they'll typically be gone by midnight, but get off the beach. I haven't heard any sirens or alerts here, so I guess that hasn't really clicked in, or they don't think it's that big of a deal to like get the whole siren network going. But I am like I'm like 6 blocks from the beach, so I would hear it if they were like blaring those alarms, and they're not doing that right now. And yeah, I don't think the tsunami is going to be the biggest deal for Washington, Oregon, and California, and then going down to Baja and Central America and beyond. It's just going to be an enhancement effectively of the tide, but just because that's what I kind of think, and check in with your local authorities. This is based off of this. It looks like most of this is going to be less than like 3 feet, but some locations are going to see significant increases, like Crescent City here. For some reason, Crescent City is showing 5.7 feet for the high, possibly. Whereas the only other place that has that sort of value is Shemya in Alaska. So tides, let's check out our tide table for Hawaii. And hopefully we can just find something on this. Tide times for Oahu, Honolulu, because we want to see if this is going to combine with that tide. It looks like low tide is at 1:32 a.m. for Honolulu. So it's going to be roughly the same for all the islands. And that is roughly when this wave is coming into Hawaii as well. So thankfully there is the low tide working against that. It'd be much worse if it was a high tide at that time and then the tsunami came in. So thankfully it is at low tide. The height is a 0.2 feet. High tide's 1.2 feet. So, you know, it's not the biggest difference, but still not something that we want to like stack on top of each other. So that is a good sign. If we go back here, again, they said that tide, low tide was 1:32 a.m. local. If we check Hawaii once more, this is expected to come in. Well, it's expected to come in before that, 7:17 p.m. That's right. Hawaii has a totally different time schedule. 7:17 p.m. on the 29th. So let's go back. High tide. Ooh, actually, guys, high tide 7:03 p.m. on the 29th. So this high tide is combining with the tsunami. So this warrants extra care and caution. Tide height 1.51. That's the highest tide of the day as well. We just had the new moon. We are coming off of a new moon when the tides are stronger. We're not at quarter moon yet, where the tides will be weakest. So there is that effect adding a little bit to this. So this high tide is expected, or rather the tsunami is expected to combine with the high tide in and around Hawaii during impact. So please be careful with that. And that's probably one reason why we have the tsunami watch in effect for Hawaii, whereas other places are advisories or watches, which is like a reduced level. But Hawaii is under a very significant tsunami watch. And Hawaii has a history with tsunamis. I think there was a big one in the 1950s. Maybe it was 1952. Don't quote me, but they do have a history with big tsunamis coming in. So anyone on the islands, please be careful. We are all praying for you. And maybe we have some new videos of what's been happening here in Russia. Let's refresh our search here and see what the deal is. Thank you all for being here in the live stream, the chat. Again, I'm your host, Stefan Burns. If you're new, geophysicist, geologist, space weather guy, just person with a lot of interest as it relates to the Earth, the stars, and more. I bring that all together, present videos almost daily, either live streams like this or regular video updates. You can find those on my channel, which is just at Stefan Burns. And as I showed people earlier just a little bit ago, we were talking about the fact that Megaquake risk was accelerating just 3 days ago, and the first zone that I identified for a potential Megaquake was, in fact, Kamchatka Peninsula. So we've been tracking this, and we effectively nailed it, spot on. So by tracking space weather trends and how that affects the Earth, and then also by looking at zones that had heightened unusual seismic activity already, which was Kamchatka Peninsula, we effectively pinpointed that magnitude 8.8. I did not call for a specific magnitude or a specific date or time. We're just kind of looking at this from like a kind of a broader perspective. But, you know, Megaquake risk. And a Megaquake is actually technically defined as a magnitude 8.5. So that is fairly close. But I don't claim to be Nostradamus. But we're effectively tracking this stuff and doing a pretty good job of it, I would say, because this is not the first time that we've had conditions that indicated that a big earthquake was going to occur. Last example was March 28th of 2025. That was the magnitude 7.7 in Myanmar. We had an earthquake watch in effect on this channel tracking this, saying, guys, we very likely have some big earthquakes coming. And then the 7.7 hit Myanmar, Burma, Thailand. That was quite destructive. So, yeah, let's see if there's anything new on Twitter. Maybe not, but I want to see these tsunami waves. Here's a video of the earthquake. Sudan. And let's see what's happening. This looks pretty serious. maybe it's after the main shocks though, because they should be on the ground if it's an 8.7, but it's going, and we don't know how close this is either. Cars are definitely moving. Wow. Even the big guy right there is moving. Yeah, so what you're going to get with a magnitude 8.8 is long sustained ground motion. This can't be too close to the epicenter because they're still on their feet. A magnitude 8.8 is going to be, she's not, but a magnitude 8.8 is going to be severe. It's probably going to knock you off your feet. And you're going to get these waves, literally waves traveling through. Let me pull up a video for you guys that will help show this. We can look at the different types of seismic waves because you have different seismic waves that have different propagations. So I have a video here for this, and let's get this loaded up, and we'll turn that off. Here we go. Here we have P waves, and we see that they're compressional. So these are the fastest seismic waves. They're the waves that hit the seismographs first, give you that alert, and then you have like, I don't know, seconds to maybe up to like 30 seconds to prepare for the bigger waves. Then you have shear waves. These are S waves, and they have this shearing motion. So they have more energy to them. P waves only make up a very small percentage of the overall energy released from a big earthquake. But these shear waves are more destructive. They come in slightly slower. So you get that first jolt, and then you start to get the rumble. And then after shear waves, what you have are surface waves. And they are the most destructive. And you have love waves, which are horizontal. These are not that common, but you get these horizontal surface waves called love waves. They can be quite destructive because they can shear the bottom of a building, basically, and shear that foundation. But usually you get these Rayleigh waves, which have like this circular motion like that. These are the most destructive. These are what really causes the ground to shake. 70% of the energy in a seismic train, as it's called, is in surface waves, primarily, again, Rayleigh waves, and they last for a long time. They have the lower frequency, higher amplitude, and so when those finally hit you, that's when the party gets started. But that is effectively the sequence of events for a powerful earthquake. Any earthquake, technically, but a powerful earthquake really makes that well known, where you get that jolt, and then you start to get a little unsteady, and then the surface waves are coming in. So they must have not been too close to that epicenter to still be standing, honestly. And some of the reports are that it was like, a minute or two of ground motion, which makes sense. This is a historic earthquake that's occurred. Here is, what's this video? Here, whew. Okay, viewer discretion advised. This isn't too crazy, but still, like, some people are very sensitive to this stuff. This is someone, I guess, trapped in a car as the tsunami wave is coming in Kamchatka. So Razio, Kamchatka, there's our favorite, Dachshund, and it looks like they're getting hit by the tsunami wave. It's really difficult to watch because they're not keeping their camera, but yeah, this was a big tsunami that hit. Are they on the roof of their car? They are on the roof of their car now, really with nowhere to go, but he's trying to get up there. It doesn't look like, well, we don't know what the extent of these waves. If these are early waves, later waves, or whether they're really already at elevation. That's why they're not that tall. But significant tsunami hit Kamchatka from that magnitude 8.8 earthquake. We saw that video, but I'm not sure what this is. This is representative footage. Yeah, it looked. That's probably from the Great Tohoku. This is probably from the Great Tohoku earthquake, 9.1 that hit Japan. But hard to say. I don't think our tsunami was that bad. Now, what's this? Southeastern part of Japan, waves have already hit. So let's see if we can zoom in here. See what this is showing. This is Koshi City, Chiba Prefecture, Japan, near the Pacific Ocean coast. and looks like elevated wave activity kind of relentlessly coming in, but doesn't look like it's anything super beyond normal. Hard to say. You don't want this to occur regardless, but it doesn't look like the end of the world. Does not look like the end of the world for residents in Japan. But yeah, a tremendous burst of Earth energy, right? All this energy and strain had accumulated and then just suddenly slipped, ruptured, biggest one in 14 years, and these seismic waves propagating out across the globe. The entire Earth shaking from this event, ringing like a bell, multiple aftershocks. We're likely having a magnitude 7 plus aftershock from this event in the next 48 hours. Let's go back to our USGS map, see what has popped up since. We may have had some new ones. We'll set this to 1 day, and let's see what's happened. Put this on only there, and newest earthquake. So just the whole area is rumbling, magnitude 5s, magnitude 6s. We see this 6.3 aftershock, a 6.9 immediately followed that 8.8, but again, because of that magnitude of 8.8, I think we are going to see a magnitude 7 plus aftershock from this. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually getting close to magnitude 8. Like we could usually it's 1 magnitude less. So if we just drop 1 magnitude off of that, we have a 7.8 earthquake, which is the strongest earthquake, if we exclude this one, going back to the 7.8 that hit Turkey in February 6th of 2023. So that aftershock, if that materializes, let's say again a 7.8, that would have been the biggest earthquake we had in years. That's very possible. It could be less than that. It could be even slightly stronger than that. We could have up to probably a magnitude 8 aftershock. That is possible. I think it's probably more likely to be in the magnitude 7 range, but it is possible that we get a magnitude 8 aftershock from this 8.8 event right here. So really, and you'll notice actually, look at these earthquakes. They are spreading out to the south. So a lot of plate motion, whereas before the swarm was located right in the zone. This is going back to the 20th of July, all those magnitude 6.6 aftershocks, the 7.4, pre-shock to this 8.8, all that stuff. It was all in the zone. Now we're getting them to spread to the south west there. So looks like some major slip, definitely some major slip has occurred along that fault. And one of the questions that some of you probably have, especially those who watch the channel quite often, is, are there other places now that because this strain is released that changes the global tectonic stress balance, are we looking at some other things to occur? Because again, often these earthquakes come in bursts. We've been in an earthquake burst, but just because we had the 8.8 doesn't mean that we're done. We could very well be in a situation where we get more magnitude 7s over the next couple weeks because now we've had a big shift in energy. So that strain is now changed across the entire Pacific plate. And again, if we look at our earthquakes for July, they've all been basically over here. We haven't had any over here. Now that is a different side of the Pacific plate. You have a mid-ocean ridge in between, so it is different, but we have not had any significant earthquakes on this side of the Pacific for July, so things are out of balance in that regard. We've had a ton over here, nothing over there magnitude 6 or greater for July. I think people should also be aware and prepared in these locations here. It's a possibility that we get some, you could say, not maybe equivalent, that's not the right word, but reciprocal release of energy on this side to kind of balance out the global stress dynamics. It's possible. It's possible. So yeah, we've had a lot of super thanks come in. I'm not sure if there's questions attached to any of these, but I just want to give my thanks to everyone who's given a super thanks. For example, Laura here with a huge super thanks, $99. Thanks so much. And a whole bunch of others as well. Miss Kelly saying, call this earthquake. Yeah, we talked about this. We've been talking about this earthquake risk for the past 2 weeks. when we have the conditions for these sort of megaquakes or just bigger earthquakes in general, I put out an earthquake watch. We've been tracking that. I did not think that we were done, even though we had the 7.3, the 7.4, a lot of magnitude 6s. Now we've had the 8.8. So probably the biggest earthquake in this seismic burst. Very, very unlikely for there to be one bigger than this for the next, like, let's say, couple weeks, even couple months, or even couple years. You typically get one magnitude 9 every single decade. That's the rough recurrence interval. Usually one per decade. Think 9.0, 2004 Sumatra, 9.1, 2011 Japan, now the strongest one, 8.8 Russia, 2025. So there's also some historic planetary resonances which are in effect. And so, like, here, let's dig into it. I've been talking about this actually in yesterday's live stream. I specifically talked about this, but let's check it out. Because we have archetypal symbology, which pointed exactly to something like this occurring in our cosmos, in our heavens. The planets themselves gave us a clue. Look at this. We have an alignment between Mars, Earth, Saturn, Neptune, and also, if we zoom out, we will see Uranus and Pluto there. And so these two, Uranus and Pluto, are 120 degrees apart. This is known as a trine. They're only 1 degree off from that perfect 120 angle. They are both sextile, or 60 degrees, to Neptune and Saturn. So we have this very powerful configuration between all the outer planets except Jupiter. Jupiter there being roughly square to Saturn as it relates to our geocentric position. But if we zoom in, we will see that this alignment's forming between Neptune, Saturn, Earth, and Mars. And in fact, these two are about to go conjunct. That's occurring in February of 2026 exactly, but they reach only 13 arc minutes apart from each other on July 12th to the 14th of this year. So they are nearly conjunct geocentrically right now at this moment in time. It's a very, very, very powerful planetary resonance. And here we have Mars. So if we zoom forward just a little bit, Earth will slip into position. This is specifically on August 8th, August 9th. Oh, wait, it was a magnitude 8.8 earthquake. Oh, yeah. On August 8th, we see this goes exact. All these planets are configured. And so Mars is representative of energy and power, and it's like a spark. Saturn is representative of the crust, of structure, the lithosphere itself. And then Neptune, of course, I think most people would know this, is representative of the oceans. And so you have Mars and energizing the Earth, and you also have this these energies of like the ocean and the crust. And we have this magnitude 8.8 today, and we see this alignment exactly occurring on August 8th, August 9th. And we have behind, configured to all this, Pluto, the planet of the underworld and of power, and Uranus, the planet of disruptive change and earthquakes. So you can't make this stuff up. You literally cannot make this stuff up. It is perfect. It's perfectly resonant with the archetypal symbology, and it's well within the window of this, because today it's the 29th of July. This occurred at 23:24 Universal Time, the magnitude 8.8, so nearly right on the border of the 30th of July. And this sort of configuration, which is something that you almost never see, this is like a millennial timescale configuration. So like hundreds, if not thousands of years, this is a very, very powerful planetary resonance. Within just less than 2 weeks of that, we get this magnitude 8.8. So well within the time window. That time window is probably actually more like 2 months. So pretty on the money. So whether you believe this stuff or not, I don't really care. Does it track? At least for this example, yeah, it tracks. That's why I study this, because it consistently proves itself. It consistently proves itself the more you study into it. So you can also learn about this if you subscribe to the channel. But I'm not saying that's what caused it, but it's certainly interesting to think about and maybe meditate on a little bit. So yeah, let's see if there's any new tsunami alerts. And let's just see what the deal is. It's starting to get dark out here. I need to eventually get off and pack my bag, and so I'm ready because I'm pretty close to the beach. So let's see what the deal is. Okay. I think they just put out a new update for the West Coast. Let's see what they're saying. Tsunami advisory in effect for California, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, South Alaska, Aleutian Islands. So the tsunami has been generated. The first waves are forecast to arrive at the following locations at these times. Yes, they have done some updates. Crescent City is still expected to have a maximum 5.4 foot enhancement. And this is all going to come in roughly around high tide, as we looked at earlier with Hawaii. But if we go down to California, most of it is less than 1 foot. San Francisco, less than 1 foot. Oceanside, La Jolla, that's San Diego, less than 1 foot. Los Angeles, less than 1 foot. So, yeah, looks like this won't end up being a big deal for California, Oregon, or Washington, but just be careful. Get something ready if you live in these zones, if you're close to the coast. Study your local tsunami hazard map. Like there's one for my area. I kind of know the zones. I'm actually outside the zone, but I know where to go. If something crazy happens, I know where to go. There's a park that's up on the hill. So it's important to track this stuff. And here's the tsunami waves 20 hours later. Let's pause this. Let's go back. This is our tsunami visualization. We already looked at this, but let's look at it again because they already have the tsunami in here. And so let's see if I can just click back here. Here we go. So here we have our tsunami propagating out according to Tsunami Lab, and really powerful waves. The biggest place, honestly, that everyone's concerned about is Hawaii. This is the big deal. Of course, these islands there, Kamchatka, that's also a very big deal. But in terms of a later arrival, the Hawaiian Islands, they wrap around the islands. They're long period motions. They continue. You can have waves in the middle of the sequence be the biggest waves, not necessarily the first wave is the largest. So we have a significant tsunami watch in effect for Hawaii at this moment in time. Really, really powerful stuff. And, I forgot to turn off this super thanks. So you guys have been seeing, I hope it hasn't covered up too much. It's a lot to manage here to do the live stream. And Celeste is saying, thank you for the prompt and accurate coverage. Fellow San Diegan here, stay safe. Yes, you as well. And I think we may call it, but let's do a question and answer. So if you have a question, please ask it in the chat. I'll take some questions from the main chat, and then we'll do super thanks questions. Because honestly, the chat's going so fast, it's going to be difficult to find them. But you can do the minimum amount if you want, and you can attach your question to a super thanks. I will go through all the questions that are attached to a super thanks and answer them. But I will take some from the chat as well, of course, because that's just the right thing to do. And that person's going in timeout. Because we can do that. Okay, so Teresa's asking, is South Korea in danger? We looked at that earlier. The risk level for China, South Korea, North Korea, Vietnam was quite low because of the kind of the natural geography of the area. Here's Korea, right? And then here's China. And then you have Vietnam further down in here. So it has to kind of break through all this. So it's not the highest risk level, even though it is pretty close to the site. Japan has already been hit by some of those waves. So I don't think there's necessarily anything to be super worried about, but good to know that's happening. But if you're in those areas, I don't think you should necessarily be super affected. And the question is, can the Caribbean be affected? So this is the Pacific Ocean, The Caribbean is very well guarded from this. So there's no issues for the Caribbean as it relates to this tsunami, but we do have the potential for very big earthquakes here. So I'm not saying it's going to occur today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, whatever, but we actually did have that 7.6 Cayman Islands back in February, right? That's a big earthquake. Caribbean has its own tsunami threats from big earthquakes that can occur locally. So that is definitely a dynamic zone because you're not going to really get big earthquakes that generate tsunamis along the mid-ocean ridge here. And so this is actually the most seismically active spot in the Atlantic, as far as I know, in this zone at least. But no tsunami threat for the Caribbean. And then Jan is asking, or Jan is asking, could aftershocks contribute to a tsunami risk? Yeah, that is possible. So we had this 8.8. That's definitely the big baddie. Big tsunami from that. But if we get, like I was kind of speculating on, a magnitude 8 aftershock, that's probably the upper limit for an aftershock. It's magnitude 8. I think it's probably more likely to be magnitude 7.8 or less. It could be a 7.5. It could be even a 7.4 or 2, similar to what occurred as a foreshock to this. I'd be surprised if we only get magnitude 6s to distribute that energy because it's simply going to be insufficient. We almost always get an aftershock 1 magnitude less. It's like clockwork. It's not every time. It's almost every time though. A magnitude 8 could definitely trigger another tsunami alert. So that's important to keep in mind, especially if you're in these areas that are most at risk, which would be here and also here. Now, how many people live on these little islands? Very few. But there are some intrepid Americans living in these locations, so please be mindful. Some of you may be watching. If you are, hello. But the biggest risk for Americans would be Hawaii. Hawaiians are definitely on the firing line, and that could be with an aftershock as well. And Pipa is asking, how's the Japanese coast going to fare? They're already getting hit with some of this energy. Seems to not be the biggest deal for them. But based off of the footage that we saw, but yeah, they are starting to get hit with some of these waves. And hopefully it remains fairly minimal in effect overall. Just because you have a big earthquake doesn't mean you have a big tsunami. It just makes it more likely. It depends on the specific dynamics of how it ruptured. You know, whether there's a ton of uplift, the geologic setting. This was fairly shallow, 20.5 kilometers down, was fairly shallow. Mega thrust earthquake, biggest in 14 years. But hopefully it's not that much of a tsunami risk for Japan. Someone's saying, watch this video from Russia. Lenka White at White Lenka 1. So maybe this is uploaded to YouTube. Hopefully this isn't some sort of prank. Lenka White, Russia. Let's see what pops up. She may have just uploaded a video. I don't know. Videos. Let's go to shorts. Maybe she's on Twitter posting this. I don't see. There's nothing on YouTube at least. And Christine is asking, do you think we're going to have a really big earthquake soon on the West Coast? So there are lots of faults that are basically overdue in California. And West Coast, of course, is not just California. Cascadia subduction zone is also overdue, and they get big earthquakes. Magnitude 8 is possible, even perhaps magnitude 9. Like big earthquakes are possible. So that's overdue for sure. If we go down to California, we zoom in on the Bay Area, the Hayward Fault is well overdue. That is the most likely zone of risk at this moment in time. So that slices through this zone here. There's a whole bunch of faults through the Bay Area. In red, we see the San Andreas. 1906, of course, we had that big, it was roughly magnitude 8. It's like a 7.8 earthquake. You know, you can get magnitude 8s in California. SoCal also big earthquakes, but we haven't had them in a while. We've been having more activity like over here, and then also in December of 2024, magnitude 7 up there. So it's really difficult to gauge this stuff, but California is kind of been quiet recently. It is mostly strike slip on the San Andreas. And the recurrence interval for the Cascadian subduction zone is very long. It's hundreds of years. So accurately pinpointing that is pretty difficult. But at some point, it'll happen. At some point, it'll happen. And so I think some questions have probably come in from the super thanks. Yeah, this is interesting. So weird, you talked about planetary alignment in 1717 for the last slip of the Alpine Fault, and now the impact for the tsunami is expected to be 1717 for Hawaii. So a little numerology. But let's go down. Great information. Thank you so much. Thank you. Keep up the hard work. How big are the estimated waves forecast for Oahu? I think that's what you meant to write. Oahu. Let us go back to our tsunami alert and let's see what Watch 4 says for the maximum. They actually aren't giving estimated wave height, I don't think. Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. This is important. I'm glad we're looking at this. This is the dart gauges. So what it says here, note, dart measurements are from the deep ocean and they are generally much smaller than would be for coastal measurements at similar locations. So this dart value there of 3 feet and the period length being 24 minutes and this one being 1 foot 32 minutes, that is going to be much smaller of a wave height than it will be for anything coastal. And so they're not giving, as far as I can tell, they are not giving an estimate for the tsunami height for Hawaii. I'm looking through this. I'm not seeing an estimated tsunami height for Hawaii. They're just saying, take this seriously. Take this very seriously. We read through that earlier. You can load this up yourself. Just type in tsunamis and NOAA, and the Tsunami Watch portal will pop up. But yeah, they're taking this very, very seriously. You should as well if you're in any of the Hawaiian Islands and you're close, like really anywhere that's close to the coast. Question is asking, Jay is asking, is this going to affect Australia? I haven't seen really any significant alerts for Australia. It is pretty far away and you have these islands kind of blocking, so I don't think you have to be concerned for Australia. But technically this energy is propagating out across the entire Pacific Ocean, everything. But it's going to be strongest for places that are close by and kind of along that path, which Hawaii is smack dab ready to get hit. 17:17 local time PM, or sorry, 7:17 PM Hawaii time is when that's expected to come in. So be prepared. Yeah, and again, no indication of the wave size. I can do another search here, but yeah, every time I refresh this, it's like failed. And it's doing that right now too. So let's just close these out. Maybe it worked. Let's see if we have a new one here. It's the same tsunami resource for Hawaii. Though for some reason these have kind of gone away. So maybe it's still loading. But we don't really know how big this wave height is going to be for Hawaii. But it is combining with high tide. It is combining with high tide. It's really difficult to give you a prediction on the height. I can't be held liable for any of these things. But it's combining with high tide, and we had 1 foot of movement on that deep ocean gauge, 3 feet on a different one. This could be a big. This could be significant. I think, at a minimum, like some of these places right on the ocean, they'll have like these surf breaks, like kind of like some walls. Like there's certain spots in California where they have like the surf wall, the break wall. I wouldn't be surprised if it's flooding over that. I don't think this is going to be like 2004 Sumatra, where it's like 30 feet tall pushing in, anything like that. But, you know, these waves could be 5, 6, 10 feet, 12 feet. It's sustained. That's the thing. It pushes in for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours. It's relentless. It just keeps coming in. Long period waves, not just like a little breaker, like just a solid push of water in. And then you also get all the debris mixed up within it, and it can be very destructive. So yeah, this is very serious for Hawaii. And it's coming in. JC's asking, is there a potential for multiple quakes to cause compounding tsunami height? Well, you would have had to have them occur like back to back to back. And so I don't think that's going to be a factor right now. And this 8.8 is probably just one big event. We did have some of those aftershocks, but the energy released from those was quite a bit less than that 8.8. So, I mean, it is possible, I guess, technically, if you have multiple earthquakes at the same time, like right at the same time, to maybe cause some interesting effects like that, but probably super, super, super low probability. Is Albany, Washington, oh no, Western Australia prone to tsunami? I think Australia is fine. And could all this energy trigger a tremor on the east coast of Australia? We have lots of fault lines. I don't know. Definitely the seismic energy ripples out. Actually, they probably have our visualization ready now. But will that trigger a fault eruption in Australia? Difficult to say. We still do not have an up-to-date visualization for this 8.8 for Kamchatka via the IRIS ground motion visualization tool. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. Barbara's asking, if the astrology shows the complete alignment of the planets 2026, why would we have a larger quake then? That's for Saturn and Neptune. But for this configuration right now, this guy, this is active right now and goes exact on the 8th and the 9th of August. And again, magnitude 8.8 earthquake, and this is exact on 8.8. So interesting. It's very interesting. You have the symbology here, Neptune the ocean, Saturn the crust, Mars the spark, the initiator. You have Uranus, the planet of radical disruption, change, and earthquakes. Pluto, representative power in the underworld. Boom, you get that combined. Earth caught in the middle of this kite formation, magnitude 8.8 earthquake. It makes sense. It makes sense. Am I safe? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm safe, but I'm going to be ending the live stream soon. So thank you for thinking of me. So yes, lots of stuff happening now, and I will be up to date on this as soon as necessary. I think I've covered everything I need to cover now. So if you are in one of these locations that's affected, then please be prepared. You're probably already logged off from the live stream, hopefully, and doing your things. But this is a serious situation. Biggest earthquake in 14 years. And we're probably still going to have some more earthquakes in this global seismic burst, just simply from the aftershocks from this. Again, this is our global seismic burst right now, defined with this 8.8 earthquake as the greatest, and this is only showing it as a magnitude 8. Volcano Discovery only has it pegged as a magnitude 8. Maybe they've updated it, but yeah, they've updated it now, going at the top of the extreme level, the absolute top of the extreme level. We are going to get aftershocks from that, absolutely, and there's likely probably some more earthquake activity coming to kind of close out this burst of global seismic activity, because once you kind of pull one thread, they all start to unwind. So it's going to take some time to unravel, I think, this release of energy globally, and so I'll be with you there every step of the way. I am basically on call for this. Like, the reason I didn't go live immediately is because I was at the gym working out, and I don't check my phone at the gym. And then I got out and I turned my phone on, and I immediately had an alert from one of the moderators saying, hey, magnitude 8 earthquake, Japan or Russia. I checked my phone, it said magnitude 8. I sprinted home on my bike. And then when I loaded up USGS, that's when it said then 8.7. And I nearly, like, my head exploded. So we've been tracking this on the channel. If we go back to my channel here, you'll see that we talked about this, the risk of it, Megaquake risk is accelerating. That technically is defined as an 8.5 or greater. Earth is long overdue for a megaquake high seismic risk zones. Based on current earthquake patterns is the title. Zone 1 here in this video, if we click it, was Kamchatka. Zone 1, Kamchatka. We talk about that in the video. You can watch that if you want. But we talked about this swarm, how it was unusual, how very likely could have been something leading up to something bigger. And well, that's exactly what happened. So this is what I do on the channel. I don't just limit myself to one domain, one thought process, one perspective. I try to take everything into perspective, give it appropriate weighting, so nothing is, weighted too much more than something that's more important. Do my best to kind of juggle all that, present this information so you guys can all be prepared with what is happening on the globe energetically, what's happening with the sun energetically. We're in solar maximum. It's been pumping energy into the earth. So that's one reason why we had this big quake. We've been having a lot of energy loaded into the planet from solar maximum, specifically from these coronal hole high-speed streams. We have another impact coming in very, very soon. We see this coronal hole right here that's kind of been forming. You can check that out. And so this is a very significant transequatorial coronal hole. We're about to get hit by that fifth high-speed stream in just about 3 weeks or so, 2-3 weeks. And these are connected to earthquakes. So it's no surprise that we have this right here center and actually getting close to geoeffective on the sun at the same time as this magnitude 8.8. Because if you look through the record of our imagery for the sun, going back to Skylab 73, and you look at the earthquake record, there is a big coronal hole, either center to geoeffective, for every single earthquake that is magnitude 8.5 and greater. And actually a lot of the lower magnitude ones as well. Just regular magnitude 8s, magnitude 7s, like most of them have a big coronal hole right in this position here. So space weather has a tremendous influence on our planet. It's very simple. You turn the sun off and then all of a sudden the earth goes cold and lifeless. So obviously it is the main energy input to our planet, and then everything else is modifying that. So what the atmospheric composition is, or the Milankovitch cycles of where Earth is in its orbit. Is it closer? Is it further away from the sun? That's all just modifying what the sun actually is doing. That's pumping out light, energy, and more. Solar storms, solar flare impacts, all that stuff is in many ways guiding the geology and geophysics of our planet. That's what I talk about. That's what a lot of people are still, maybe not denial, but they just don't see the connection. I don't understand it. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. They don't see it, but we see here on the channel. We talk about that. So if you would like to learn about this, then please subscribe. I've been your host, Stefan Burns, and I will see you all very, very soon in another video, I am sure. And please take care of yourselves. These sort of energy events can be very difficult and stressful on the body, no matter where you live, especially with something this big. So please get the rest that you need. Drink a lot of water, breathe good, clean, fresh air, and I hope you feel good and well when I see you next time. So again, thank you all so much. I'll see you all very soon.